Look at this. Do you know what that is? That is 3 ultimate rare copies of Blasting Fuse. When you acquire 3 ultimate rare copies of Blasting Fuse, there is only one thing to do. You have to take them to your locals and terrorize everyone you know. Can we win our locals with Blasting Fuse Turbo? Stick around and find out. This is maybe not going to be the most competitive video you've ever seen, but oh man, it will be strange, wacky, unsettling. Maybe not unsettling, but it's going to be a good time, so stick around. For this deck, we are playing some of the jankiest cards imaginable because the whole point of this is to have fun. So we're playing the 3 Ultimate Rare Blasting Fuse, and I know what you're thinking. After they see the first Blasting Fuse, aren't they going to start playing around it? Like, is it reasonable to play 3 copies? And the answer is no. So not only are we playing 3 Blasting Fuse, we are also playing 2 Needle Sealing and 1 Pineapple Blast, specifically with Winged Rhynos. That is just another copy of Torrential Tribute, so that is quite good. Now we need monsters to combo with the Blasting Fuse, and Winged Rhynos is the star one, of course, but we're also playing 2 copies of Sand Moth. If it's destroyed when it's face down, it comes back and its attack and defense are swapped. But you thought that was it? Just Rhynos and Sand Moth? No! We're going back on the Baby Sarasaurus. 3 Baby Sarasaurus and the best Dinosaur card in Edison format, Sabersaurus. I love this guy. I mean, one thing in Rhynos is you kind of just need beaters. You need big monsters that your opponent needs to commit 2 cards into, and then your trap cards get more value. And then after that, it's just a pretty standard Rhynos deck. As you can see, look at all those cards. We got the draw cards, we got the trap cards, and we're also playing Scapegoat. I forgot to mention Scapegoat. That works really well with Blasting Fuse and with Needle Sealing. Can we win our locals? Let's jump in and watch some Blasting Fuse gameplay. Let's do it.
All right, game number 1 with Blasting Fuse Turbo. We are up against zombies. They activate Allure of Darkness, banish Goblin Zombie, and look at those columns. Can you believe those columns? We're going to summon Rhynos, set 4, and pass our turn. They're just going to set 1 more monster and pass right back to us, and we draw a Sabersaurus off the top. Did you see that? We're going to activate Legacy. We chain Rhynos, chain Drawer of Greed, and then that is Chain Link 4 for Accumulated Fortune. We draw our 4 cards. Rhynos goes back to the hand, and did you see that draw? Did you see that Blasting Fuse? And do you see the columns in front of us? Oh, I'm so excited. We're going to set a mystery monster. We set another back row and pass our turn. They just set another back row and pass back to us. We draw, and it is time to pop your cards. Pyramid Turtle and Call of the Haunted. Incredible. And we have the Sand Moth.
Right now. It now has 2,000 attack.
And look at those other columns. We're going to use this Good Goblin Housekeeping. We draw 1, put it on the bottom of the deck, and this is the biggest mistake in the entire tournament for me. Look at this. I think I'm about to Blasting Fuse yet again, but unfortunately it was the MST, and that's a Spirit Reaper set. If we had gotten off that second Blasting Fuse, oh my god, we'd be in such a good spot. And not to mention, I have a bottomless trap hole in my hand and like a deep prison. Like, we could have stopped this next play, but what can you do? I messed up. I was too excited to get the Blasting Fuse, but you know, that's what happens sometimes. Unfortunately, that is just an accumulated fortune set, which is just, it's so awful. They're going to get to pop our Sand Moth and that accumulated fortune, and now we are not in the best spot, and I'm regretting my hasty end phase of the last turn. We're just going to set 2 back row and pass. They set another back row and pass right back to us. We're going to attack into that Sphere Reaper, which unfortunately was not Blasting Fused. That sucked, but what can you do? They're just going to set another back row and pass. We're just doing a lot of passing back and forth. My deck is not very aggressive. Let's just say that. We can't even draw like a Sabersaurus. Not that it would do us any good. They activate Instant Fusion. They get out this Reaper with a Nightmare. We're going to MST one of the back row because I believe it is Solemn Judgment, and if they have Solemn, our Rhynos will get killed as well, which is what I was worried about. Now they are going to make a Black Rose Dragon. We can at least bottomless and save our Rhynos, and we had no way to deal with the Spirit Reaper. Oh, except we did! We had the blast, or the Pineapple Blast for the next turn. Unfortunately, they're going to get out that Reaper, normal summon a Mizuki. They hit, I believe, the Heavy Storm out of our hand, so that's not too bad. And then they're going to attack us for 1,700. We go down quite a bit more, and then we draw for turn a Mirror Force, not too bad. We summon out the Rhynos, attack over the Mizuki for 100 damage. They go down to 55. We are tied right now. We then set a couple of back row and pass right back to our opponent. Just kidding, we said it all. We don't care about Heavy Storm. They switch the Reaper to defense, and then they're just going to pass back to us. We pass back to them, and then they attack us directly. We're going to Mirror Force that card to save the card in our hand, and we decide not to chain the Rhynos. They then summon Dark Armed Dragon, and fortunately, they did target the Torrential Tribute, so we can just chain that and chain the Rhynos, so we can destroy the Dark Armed Dragon. We're then going to summon the Rhynos, attack directly for 1800, putting them down to 37, but they do have the Gores in the hand, which is not very good, especially because we just used that Mirror Force. They switch that token to attack position, and we will deprison the Gores, and then we will bounce the Rhynos to our hand as to not let it get cleared by the token. They pass back to us. We're going to activate this Good Goblin Housekeeping, which we can draw 2 cards now, which is not too bad, and accumulated, and I didn't really see what the other one was. I think that's a Legacy. We're going to summon out the Rhynos, set a couple of cards, and pass our turn. We're going to normal summon out a Gale, and on the Gale effect, we're going to get up to Chainlink 4 with these draw cards, so we can bounce the Rhynos and draw 3 cards. I think we just drew a baby Ceratosaurus, so that's not going to help us too much, but you know, that's fine. They're then going to use that Mizuki to get back the Reaper of the Nightmare and then use Instant Fusion. They go into 2700, and then they are going to Synchro into an Urbellum. We do have the Bottomless for the Urbellum. We're going to get a card ripped out of our hand, but we can Chainlink 2 Tragodia, so they're going to rip out, what do they hit? Oh, the Rhynos? Okay. But thankfully that Tragodia can wall off the token at 1800 defense, and then on our turn we're going to normal summon Sabersaurus, switch the Tragodia to attack for 100 and for a little bit, so they're down to 1600 life points. We set 2 back row and pass our turn. They draw Mind Control. They're then going to Tribute Summon Caius. They target the Tragodia, and that will get popped. We'll take 1,000. We're down to 1,100, and they decide not to attack, although we just have 2 draw card sets, so we're going to use those. You saw we drew another Sabersaurus, and I think another draw card, so we are not in a great spot. We're just going to set all of our cards and pass. They use Brain Control, putting them down to 800 life points. They steal our Sabersaurus, and we are going to deprison the Caius, and then they attack into our other Sabersaurus, which we just set out of shame. They give us back the Sabersaurus, and now we're going to activate this Good Goblin Housekeeping. We can draw 3 cards and then put 1 to the bottom of the deck. I think you saw Gores right there. I think I put that on the bottom because we only have 1,100 life points, and odds are we're not going to be able to use it, so we just set them all and pass. They're going to activate this Mind Control on our guy, and we can activate the Blasting Fuse because all the columns are filled up, but it was just a Goblin Zombie. So that's terrible. They're not going to summon their Zombie Master. They just set a card, and then we can normal summon out this Rhynos. We attack into the Pyramid Turtle. If only it was a Pyramid Turtle last turn, but you know how it goes. They summon the Zombie Master Crash, and then they attack directly for game. Game number 1, we got destroyed. We activated 2 Blasting Fuses, and it did not matter at all. All right, game number 2 with the Blasting Fuse deck, and it's going to be a lot harder to win. We're going to summon out a Rhynos, set 2 back row, and pass our turn. They are going to play around columns this time, setting a bunch of cards and passing. We draw for turn. We're then going to go into the battle phase. We attack over this Goblin Zombie. They add a Plague Spider to their hand, and then we just set another back row and pass. They're going to activate Mind Control. We do have the Jar of Greed, but they have the Solemn Judgment, and we cannot respond with another trap card nor chain Rhynos, so that is really good. We do get to bottomless the Goyo, but now we are cut off of Rhynos access, which really hurts our entire strategy. They Death Tornado a random Good Goblin Housekeeping, and we are not in the best spot. Set 1 and pass. We set 1 as well, and then they're going to activate this Emergency Teleport, get out a Krebons from the deck, and then they Tribute Summon a Caius, and unfortunately they hit the 1 out of 4 that is not chainable. So we can go Chainlink 2, MST, Scapegoat Accumulated, but they hit the 1 card I did not want them to hit, the Deprison. So although we can stop some of the damage with the tokens, yeah, we are not in the best spot. They're in normal summon the Plague Spreader. They can take out 2 tokens and then make a Thought Ruler Archfiend and pass their turn. We summon out this Baby Ceratosaurus, set a back row, and pass our turn. They do not play into it. They attack into the baby, and we have to Needle Sealing on that. Although we lost 3 monsters, at least we could deal with the Thought Ruler. They're then going to Allure of Darkness and banish the Dark Armed Dragon from their hand. And then they activate a Book of Life. They can banish that baby Ceratosaurus to get out a Goblin Zombie. They then summon a level 3 Tuner Psychic into an Urbellum, add the Zombie Master to their hand, and we are not in a great spot. We're just going to set a couple of back row and then pass our turn. They do not decide to attack. Oh, actually, they do decide to attack, so we take that damage, and now we just have to set another back row and pass our turn. They attack us directly, set a back row and pass, and our back row are not looking great. We just set another one and pass, and now we are getting dangerously low. We then activate a Legacy of Yagurasu, but I think it's just a dead card. They activate Heavy Storm, and look at these cards. We've got Blasting Fuse, Pineapple Blast, Accumulated Fortune, the most dead trap cards you've ever seen. They also have Call of the Haunted, and yeah, this game is pretty much wrapped up. We have a Tragodia to stave off some damage, but on the second Blasting Fuse and Accumulated Fortune, that is a miserable hand. Oh my god.
All right, round number 2, we are up against Yugioh Turbo, and they're just going to set a monster and set a back row. This is the ideal Blasting Fuse scenario until they move the column. I can't like tell them what I'm doing, so I'm like, at least they're in the same column still. So they are going to summon a card trooper, and they're going to use the effect. They mill 3 cards, and I will chain this Jar of Greed. Chainlink 2, Chainlink 3 Rhynos, and Chainlink 4 Accumulated Fortune. We are able to draw 3 cards. We get that Rhynos back to our hand. And then they are going to flip up this hamster. If only we had that Blasting Fuse, we could have popped 2 cards. But unfortunately, we did not draw it when we needed it. And then we're going to summon out a Rhynos on our next turn. They're going to bottomless the Rhynos so we can bounce it back to our hand. But that means this card trooper is going to get another mill. So things are not looking too good. They're going to randomly MST a back row, and they do hit the Accumulated Fortune, which is like probably fine. They get to mill 3 more with the card trooper, and then they attack us for 1,100. We are down to 2,000 life points. We've taken so much damage this game just from these weenies. And then they start moving around their cards, and I'm like, no, you gotta keep them in the same columns for no reason in particular. Don't worry about it, but it's just so funny. Like this is Edison format, and here's the coolest play of this game. We're able to Pineapple Blast with the Rhynos. We clear their entire field because the Rhynos bounces back to our hand, and then we set a couple of cards and pass our turn. They're going to activate Rhoda. They get the Greffer to their hand. They summon the Greffer, pitching the Value, sending the Plague. They get the Armed Wing, and they are going to attack, and we can bottomless the Armed Wing actually before they attack. They then stack for Plague. They make a Bryonic, and then they pitch this Sirocco targeting our D Prison, and now we have nothing to protect ourselves, so we lose game number 1. Game number 2, let's see how we do. We are going to set a monster and set a couple of back row and pass our turn. We need a Blasting Fuse so badly. Look at this. They even correct it to the T set. We have a Baby Ceratosaurus set, and we just need a Blasting Fuse. We activate all these draw cards, and we cannot get the Blasting Fuse. And on the next turn, my horror is revealed. It was a hamster. It would have been such an ideal Blasting Fuse, but when we need it, we do not have it. They then summon the Greffer. They have that Rhyko set, and now things are looking horribly bad. They just attack over our baby, and then they attack us for 1,100, and this is just, it's so bad. We're going to activate this Legacy. We're going to normal summon this Sabersaurus. We got to play around our own Blasting Fuse, and it was the D Prison. So if we had drawn the Blasting Fuse, we would have popped Hamster D Prison and gotten the Sabersaurus out of the deck. But no, we couldn't draw it, and now, I mean, it's Yugioh Turbo. They're doing Yugioh Turbo things, just basically unimpeded because most of our back row are completely dead. And yeah, things are not looking great for us, and they can just attack us with these weenies, and there's just really not much we can do because even if we restabilize, they've just gotten too much advantage at this point. And we draw Mirror Force, which is quite good. We can MSC the back row. It was a deck devastation virus. We then set that card and pass. They summon out a Greffer, and then they just go into the battle phase. And we do have to Mirror Force this, so at least we can survive one more turn, but it is not looking great. We draw for turn, summon out the Rhynos, attack. They're going to MST a random back row, and unfortunately they do have the Gores. We were thinking about compulsing our Rhynos, but it was so bad they hit that compulse because that's what we could have used to stop this Yugioh Synchro basically, and now it's looking really bad. We have to use 2 D Prisons on these cards, so thankfully we can survive one more turn, but we lose our Rhynos to the token. We've restabilized a little bit, but things are not looking great, and our top decks in this deck are not ideal. For instance, there's one of them, the Sabersaurus. We can attack for 1,900 damage, and they activate a Rhoda, summon an Armageddon Knight, sending a Yugioh, and then they get out the Armed Wing, and they have Burial. They had Burial the whole time, so it was not looking good for us. We lose round number 2. Where was the Blasting Fuse? All right, round number 3. We are up against Stardust Assault Mode. My opponent's just going to set a monster and then pass their turn. We're going to set a Sand Moth and then set 2 back row. Set 3 back row and pass to them. They're just going to, I believe, activate this giant Trunade. And then we are going to chain our Scapegoats, chain Jar of Greed, and chain Accumulated Fortune. So not a bad trade for us. We get to draw some cards. We get some goat tokens. They're going to flip up this Gravekeeper Spy. They get out another Spy. They're then going to summon this Flamvel Magician. They then synchro into a red Dragon Archfiend. And this is probably one of my favorite interactions of the entire tournament. They attack into a token and they pop all of our monsters, but they pop the Sand Moth when it's face down, so it comes back. And now we can clear the Spy on our next turn. What an incredible play. Also, look at my hand. Just the worst hand you've ever seen. 2 Baby Ceratosaurs, 2 Sabersaurs. I do not know how we can win this game. They then tribute the Red Dragon Archfiend for Caius. They target our back row, and then they do this because they have Dark Armed Dragon in their hand. They destroy our Blasting Fuse. They attack over our thing. And look at this. Oh my god. They pop our Baby Ceratosaurus with Dad. I couldn't believe this game when it was happening in real life. We take quite a bit of damage, but thankfully we can summon out this Gores, and then they are able to pop the token. And so then we are going to set a back row and then set a card and pass our turn. They are going to just attack, and we can use this Needle Sealing. This will clear our Gores and their 2 monsters. We're going to flip up the Sabersaurus on our next turn, normal summon another Sabersaurus, and then get in for quite a lot of damage. They are down to 3,400 life points to then set a monster and pass the turn. We summon out a winged Rhynos, and then we are going to attack their monster. Thankfully, it was just a Descendant, and then we can get in again. And I believe we just take game number 1. Yeah, we win game number 1 purely. I don't even know how we won that game, to be honest. Now, here we are in game number 2. They are just going to pass their turn. We're going to set a bunch of cards and pass back to them. We did not draw any summonable monsters. And then they're just going to pass right back again. We set one more and pass, and then they set a Spy and pass. We're then going to do this big chain where we can just draw a bunch of cards. We get all of our Scapegoat tokens, which are not too bad. And then it's our turn. We are then going to set a lot more back row. We still haven't drawn a Rhynos or a Sabersaurus or just anything we can really summon. They flip up the Spy. They get out the other Spy. They normal summon the Descendant. They decide to pop a random back row. Thankfully for us, it was the Accumulated Fortune. Oh yeah, and then we're going to do this Needle Sealing play again where we get to draw a bunch of cards, but we lose all of our goat tokens. So I don't know like if it was the best trade, but hey, it was an interesting trade. I'll take it. I guess we only used 1 card for the Scapegoat tokens. We then summon out the Sabersaurus. We attack into our opponent for 1,900, and they do have the Gores. We can then set a couple of back row and pass. They activate Mind Control, and then we can Mirror Force. We destroy all their monsters. They then set a back row and pass. We draw for turn. We're going to activate this Knock on their guard. Hilariously, we then set a monster, set a couple of back row and pass our turn. They're then going to set another back row and pass back to us. We set another monster and pass back to them. And yeah, we don't have a lot of pressure. They then activate Heavy Storm, and it was 2 D-Prisons, or a D-Prison and a Bottomless, which was really painful. We then attack into our Sand Moth, which has 2,000 defense with the Assault Beast. We then can swap the Sand Moth to attack into their monster, summon out this Tragodia, which has a lot of attack, get over the Assault Beast, and now our position is looking quite good. We can set a back row and pass to our opponent. They're then going to, they summon out a Cyber Dragon. They attack into our face-down monster, but we will deprison. We normal summon out a Sabersaurus, attack our opponent for a lot of damage, and we're just in control of this game somehow. I don't even know how. We have not resolved a single Blasting Fuse. We're then going to set a back row and pass, and yeah, they're just fully bricked. So we were able to win round number 3 against Assault Mode.
And so our record was 1-2 at our locals, but I mean, that was some of the most fun I've had playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever. So I don't know. I think more people need to do this. Like, obviously winning is fun, but just put weird stuff in your deck and try to pull it off. Like, the adrenaline rush of, like, your opponent setting 2 cards in the same column, it's an unbelievable feeling. You do not know what it's like until you experience it for yourself, because, wow. I cannot tell you how fun it is to lose with this deck. Like, I lost so much this locals, but my mouth was like in a permanent smile. I was so happy. Just do this. Like, bring weird decks to your locals. Like, create memories. I'll never forget, my friend Dorian, he had a going away tournament. He moved out of town. We had like a mini competition at the locals where the person who summoned the monster with the highest attack got like an extra pack at the end. People throughout the tournament were just shouting out like 4,000, 5,000, like they were all, it's what locals are about. I mean, sure, at the YCS and at RBT, you know, grind it out, do your thing, but this is locals. Like, we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And we're coming together with the community to have fun. So have some fun out there, throw some jank in your deck, and try to set up the Rube Goldberg machine so it all falls into place. It probably won't, but if it does, you'll have a great time. So that's gonna wrap up this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and yeah, I will see you in the next one.